Good afternoon and welcome to the latest edition of Confessions of a Gamer with me, Voice of the Forge. There has been a discussion within our community about certain card games, and this led me to do the video that I labelled Confessions of a Gamer 3, Magic and Friends Part 1. This is Part 2, and I hope that I do it justice by doing this video in only one part, whereby we talk about the future of Magic, where part 1 was more the history. This is more the future. Now, this has come about because this has been something which has been talked about in the community, of which I'm part of, the Forgotten Forge project, which is led to my name, Voice of the Forge. And a lot of what has been detailed here is work that has been done by one of our members called Baron Von Zakary. You can find him on YouTube under that name, and he's also responsible for curating some of the videos that we put up onto Dailymotion. That is so that we have a body of work both on YouTube and Dailymotion in case we get hit by DCMA strikes or similar. So, today we're going to address a problem with a popular card game, which is Magic the Gathering. It's a disparity in the costs of playing Magic compared to other games. And we're talking specifically paper versus online. Now, the examples that we've chosen are things like Pokemon booster packs, right? And whilst we do have the information saying roughly around £3, if I was to sell a Pokemon booster at full retail price, it'd be about $3.79, which is comparable to about $3.59 and about $3.50-ish for Yu-Gi-Oh! $3.59 would be Magic, $3.79 would be Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! I think is the cheapest, but you also get the fewest cards. Now, with Pokemon, you get 10 playable cards, which is playable in the current block, and one of them will be a rare, which is a given in the blind packs and distributions, which is something that Magic did start, because this was effectively the first one that really made it big. And then you also have a foil card. Now, the thing with Pokemon is that you also get a QR code card. Now, compare that to a Magic booster, which are roughly bought at the same price, unless bought in bulk. You can't get a decent discount unless you know specific people. In a Magic booster you get 15 playable cards, one of which is a guaranteed rare, and then you get a land, which is of limited value to those who've been playing for a long time. It's of more value to newer players. And then you also either get a tip card, which is recommending further product, or a random token. So you get a total of 16 cards in the pack and maybe another playable token if you're lucky. Otherwise you just get marketing material. Now, at the first glance, Magic is a decent price. It's 20p cheaper, and they do seem better. You get 6 more cards, and if you've been playing for any length of time, the land card, as I said, is not particularly useful, and the token tip card is pretty useless. So that lowers the total value of what you're buying before we even open it. And then, unlike Pokemon, there's no certain foil card. The distribution appears to be on average 1 in every 6 packs. So this hurts players that both want to collect a whole foil set and those who wish to just have shiny cards so that they can have a shiny card deck, so make it just look like they've put a little bit extra effort into their decks. So it hurts both collectors and players. If you're neither interested in the foil cards, then again it's something that is of no external value to you. It's not an extra thing. It's just something which is an extra, and you aren't really that bothered about it, so you're not really the demographic of the player or the collector. Now, this is going to be the most strongly debated opinion, and is worthy of its own video in total, but it mostly holds true about the amount of junk rares there are in Magic. In Pokemon, If you pull a decent few packs, you can get a mythic, and if it's a mythic, it's always something like an X Pokemon or one of the Pokemon that's the strongest in the set that you're buying for. And they're hugely powerful cards in the format, always foil, sometimes a rare full art variant, but they're something special. If you pull one of these mythic cards in Pokemon, you know you've got a good card, and quite often you can rebuild decks that you've previously built around these cards purely because of the power they give you. Now, if you pull a mythic in Magic, which is roughly 1 in 8 packs, then you're then looking at a disparity in the amount of cards that you've had to pull in order to pull a foil. And then right off the bat, if it's going to be a foil mythic, it's going to be even rarer. And so this really does price gouge players and collectors, because if you end up with a foil mythic, it's worth so much more, because it is consequently so much rarer, which does effectively hurt both players and collectors. And then there's a quality gap in the rares and mythics found in most sets when it comes to Magic. Out of the pool of these already hard to get cards, usually only a handful see regular play. And why is that? Well, it's because most of them are either too niche, or they don't play well with other cards in the set, which makes them harder to use, or they're just not that good in the first place. Most of them seem to end up in a somewhat mediocre use in draft tournaments, which is okay if you've got the money to play a lot of draft tournaments, but when you're playing infrequent draft nights where everyone's come together as a club to actually partake in the activity to reduce the cost for members, it's not that great. It doesn't spoil the fun, but it's sort of like, oh yeah, it's one of those, yeah, it's a mythic, and yeah, okay, I'll use it tonight, and that's the last time I'll see it, because I'll just stick it in a drawer or in a folder and forget about it. Now, if you're going to have a card that's going to be that rare, surely it would make sense to make it one of the power cards in the block, rather than junk. Again, this is only opinion, but this is an opinion that has been discussed within the group. And there's got to be some of you out there which at least share the disappointment that we have when this happens. We all know the feeling of opening a fresh pack, shuffling through to the back, and your heart rate does increase as you see a hint of the orangey red. Now, is it going to be that mythic symbol? Holy mother of God, yes it is. Oh look, it looks awesome, and what does this bad boy do? And it's pure jank. You look at it and you're going, my God, why did they bother wasting the cardboard on this card? It may not have any place in your deck, it may just be one of those niche cards, or you may be able to see the power in it if you've got 30 more cards that are all mythic or hard to get rares and all special land. In other words, you can see that in a deck that's specifically tailored to it worth about £400, it's going to be of some value. The rest of the time, if it's not one of those two things, it's just a lame ass card. And it always sucks. Yes, you can put them aside, wait on them, and sometimes it's worth it just because you can get a couple of quid, just due to it being a mythic, and you never know, it might be relevant in the future. They may have plans for it later on in the block in some huge way. But if we're completely honest with ourselves, when you pull a mythic, you want it to be the best goddamn card it can be. And as Baron says, it's like finding a tiny leprechaun who vows to vanquish your enemies. And in both these cases, you want it to be the best that you can possibly get. But it's quite often not the case. And if you've looked at the maths that we've presented, you can quite often see that when you weigh it up, the Magic booster packs don't really match up in terms of content, which again goes back to an argument about quality and expense. Now, The closest Wizards has got to equaling in terms of value is the recent Masters set, and this is partially what's set this discussion off. And these are the infamous packs that contain a mix of 15 classic cards, known to be good, with one going to be a certain rare and a certain foil as well. Now, on paper, that sounds absolutely fantastic. If you know that you're going to be going out and getting 15 classic cards, which are obviously being reprinted for a reason, plus a rare, plus a foil, you're going to be pretty damn excited about that. But then when we come back to reality, these sets are only done by Wizards in very small print runs. So there's fewer packs to be had, which makes them rarer. And then the price that they sell them as, well, this is going to be an issue, isn't it? Because you're going to have people that are in the know, that know what these are going to be like. And getting them on launch day, they were selling for something like £8.50 a pack. And not much less than that, unless you know someone who's willing to sell them at shop rates. And usually in booster box sizes. So, in one way they did the right thing, but then massively overpriced and underprinted, so they could make more money. And whilst Magic did start out as a saviour to a failing company, it does grate a bit when you're spending an absolute fortune for reprints just to remain competitive. And it really, again, because of the small print runs, doesn't really affect the secondary market, because the things people want are still so rare that they still fetch insane prices. Now, taking a moment to catch your breath and make a disclaimer, this is what we should have said at the beginning. We do not hate Magic. This is not an attack on the game. You can see by the first video that I did, part 1, that I have a deep love for the lore, the history, and the fact that this game has managed to survive for as long as it has in a highly competitive and highly volatile marketplace. And many of us in the Forgotten Forge community project have loved the game for many years. And this is more of a gripe about tactics that Wizards are using. And for a company that claims to have no interest in the secondary market of cards, it does do an incredibly good job at keeping the market value of those secondary cards well regulated. Now, Wizards do make the rules on what can and what can't be put into each set, as each new card based on an old one or a reprint. So not only does it reprint the card, but it also brings it back into competitive play. Now, again, like I said about the Mythics, some of these modern cards require into the hundreds of pounds to buy a playset of. If you wanted to play Vintage or Legacy, then you're going to be looking at 4 figures, and that's insane just to play a card game with cards that are getting on a bit. Let's be honest. Now, Wizards could reprint these cards quite easily from any of these sets at any time they wanted, along some new ones if they wanted to keep some things fresh. Hell, they could release their own cereal if they wanted to. Magicos, the breakfast that one drop taps for chocolatey whole grain goodness. Start your day the Planeswalker's way. Now with a free tournament legal promo card every month. This month, Full Art Black Lotus. Could you imagine the amount of money they'd make? It would be insane. But they won't. Why? Because they know that alongside all the money that we spend on the core sets, we bleed ourselves dry by buying up extra packs, all hoping to pull that one Hail Mary card that will propel us into the Pro League, and therefore make back a fortune. It sucks the hairiest of dongs knowing that whatever way you get your Magic fix, be it draft nights, buying, trading singles, etc., that at some point you are getting screwed out of money than other games would be screwing you for. But I hear you cry, what about Magic Online? You can play there, and other than the $10 sign-in, you never have to pay again. Not everyone needs a real cardboard £100 modern deck or a $1,000 legacy deck. Well, again, we're talking technicalities here. We can play Magic Online for free after signing up, but if you buy a theme deck, you could say the same thing about Magic in real life. But if you're only playing for free, then yes, you can enter tournaments, but you won't win much for playing. Why? Because of the decks that you're going to be competing against. So it'll take you, if you're a good player, I'm not saying that you can't, but it will take you a long time to get decent cards that you want to be able to improve your decks. So the majority of people playing online will look at the mountain they've already got to face, and they'll just crack and spend real money. Now they'll either spend it in game to buy the booster packs from the available sets, or to enter the higher level tournaments for better prizes. And this is the kicker: higher level tournaments for better prizes. Now, all the booster packs that you get on Magic Online are sold at the manufacturer's specifically recommended retail price, and this is the same price as their physical counterparts. So, having spent the same as you would on a real booster pack, this only exists within Magic Online. And the closest you'll get to seeing these cards is if you crack open enough packs to get one of every card in a set. And then, assuming it's a set still supported by Wizards, which are generally only a few years into the past, then they'll send you one of each as a set for a $25 plus shipping fee, depending on what the postage is. So not only are you going to be paying for the privilege of opening the virtual packs, but then to get a full play set of a set, you're then going to be spending even more money to see those cards realised physically. So you pay the same, or sometimes you can be arguing even more, for something that then doesn't physically exist and can be terminated at any time if you take time to read the terms of service and the end user license agreement, and can only be made real by grinding and playing through the nose. And this is a privilege on the newer cards, not on the older cards, because they're no longer supported by Wizards. If you remember, we say that the sets are only going back a couple of years. Well, the older the set is, the less likely it is going to be supported by Wizards. And we can't get reprints on the old cards to make them affordable. Now, way back when, right at the start of this, we mentioned the fact that when we talk about a Pokemon deck, we also mention a QR code. Now, the QR code on this booster pack is for Pokemon Online, and it's worth one booster pack. Buy a real booster, and you also get, contained within that price, another virtual booster pack in Pokemon Online. Now, they aren't guaranteed to be the same cards, they're not that clever, but what it means is that you have one set of cards that you've got physically, and another set of cards that you've effectively been given for free to use in the Pokemon Online game. So, you've still got another chance to pull something good, something where you will have some form of enjoyment out of it, even if your physical booster pack wasn't that great. You've still got another chance to get something good. And even then, that's not always the truth, because if you buy something like the Pokemon Mega DNC X Premium Collection and special gift boxes, usually containing a few boosters, a certain rare and some collectibles, then with the special packs you also get a special code to unlock the same contents online. So again, this doesn't mean that you're going to get the exact same cards in the booster, but in the case of the Mega DNC X Pokemon, you were given a QR code which would unlock a Mega DNC X pack, which gave you the same number of boosters and the special card that is in this collector's pack. So when you look at the equivalents of their fat packs and collectibles, then you can get special cards online as well as physical, because they contain a QR code specific to that pack. So, what's that over there? Is that a fat lady singing? Is this the end for Magic, is what I'm saying? No. This sums up some of the more common ways in which Magic costs more than it should. But even after all this, I don't think there's many of us in the community that's either going to stop playing or buying Magic cards online. More for real, much Magic product in general, whether it's online or offline. And this isn't a video telling anyone to stop either. This is not telling you to go out and steal, because that's something that I'd never do, especially if you've known me in real life and you know my background. And we're just being clear on this. This is nothing more than a massive gripe. And we're not the first community to do this. And what we're trying to get across, and what Baron is saying as well, is that it's time to make some noise. Let Wizards know that we as players aren't just happy little cash cows, eager to be milked at every turn. It's a great game, we're happy to pay for it, and just not to the point where we have to sell our furniture in order to be able to compete. At the end of the day, Wizards makes the cards and sets the prices of those cards. They charge so much because people are willing to pay that much for it. Buying a booster pack in Magic Online doesn't cost Wizard anything other than the little bits of data that it costs to store on the server and minor maintenance costs. Since you get no physical product, you are essentially paying for fun. And that price tag at $3.99 a pack now seems to sting a little bit and is just a tad high. Now, if we were to look at one of their competitors that came into the market and actually had to fight a copyright and trademark battle to win, and Wizards lost, then look at Hex Online. For £5, you get 800 platinum points, and they sell their booster packs for 200 platinum points. So for a £5, you get 4 decks. You get 4 booster packs. That's $125 a pack. You can also buy decks for 500 points. If you want to enter certain tournaments, then yes, it will cost you platinum points. But if you wanted to subscribe and pay a £5 a month, then you get 4 free packs and entrance into VIP tournaments that are run monthly. Now, Magic could quite easily drop their poster packs down to about £1.50, and they would still be more expensive than Hex, but they would garner a lot more goodwill from people that feel that they are being stung for an online non-physical variant for the same price as official printed cards. Now, as long as we continue to prove to Wizards that we're happy paying more to them than any other successful game, then they will obviously keep acting like this. This is the whole essence of what happened with Games Workshop not so long ago, and it wasn't until they lost their CEO, until he stepped down, that the dramatic decline in the company's fortunes ceased, and it turned a corner with better product and better price points. Now, if people are interested in that, then I can quite happily do a video on Warhammer and Games Workshop over the last 5 years, and I will be able to point out parallels between what they were doing then and what Magic is doing now. Until people start doing what they did with Warhammer and start saying en masse that no, we won't pay for things like this because it's just not worth it anymore, not until then will Wizards take any notice. And not until they feel they really feel like they're risking a large part of their customer base. Again, like we say, we love Magic, and part of the reason we've got this concern is because there are many people that loved Warhammer and saw their company going down the tubes. And I'm not saying that we give everyone a full foil tournament level deck with the morning newspaper. I'm just saying that there are other great games out there that are doing well. In some cases, they are treading all over Wizards' market share, and if they're doing so well, then they're going to have an impact long term on the game. And they give some of this back in the boosters, which is why they're doing so well. They're giving the players more for their money, and therefore they're generating more goodwill. This makes it a bit easier for everyone to have a go, and not just those with more disposable income. Of course, there's always going to be other games out there that do these things as well. But Magic is simply the biggest and the most popular, and does seem to do them to excess. Now, putting redeemable QR codes into Magic boosters would be a great start, and in fact, we have actually seen an idea floating for this on Kickstarter, which was after we'd started having this discussion, and which has really added fuel to the fire. It doesn't change the price of paying for Magic overnight, but it would be some way to at least let those who can't afford to buy that much in the first place use it online as well as offline, and maybe they would improve their skill set because they can get more games in because they're able to play online and not just when their friends are available offline. Hell, if they really wanted to argue this, due to being able to trade in a digital set for a real one could even make this a little overpowered. So why not put a code in for a random older set that's no longer claimable? So, as mentioned above, there's no asset stripping to be had in terms of the value of the physical card or anything else. But this again would mean that you'd be able to get certain cards into certain formats, like a legacy format, in which they're able to keep on getting these cards played, even though then they're not going to be of any value anywhere else. It just means that, oh look, I've managed to get this card for play online, which again could increase player base knowledge of cards in reality as well, but also it also extends the legacy market for those who haven't been playing as long. And again, these sets sold in game cost them nothing to keep selling them indefinitely. There's bits of code. It's not like they have to stock them somewhere in a warehouse and pay warehousing fees and all the rest of it. It's not even pence for the little zeros and ones to have them stored on a server. So why not give a small reward to loyal customers by saying, look, here, you bought a pack of standard legal cards, and here's a code for a random booster pack anywhere from Alpha to, say, Magic Core Set 12 or Return to Ravnica, and these are cards that can range from being a bit pricey in paper to you'll never hold one of these in your life, you peasant. Try a pack on us, and if you find cards that you like in that set, you can buy more or try your luck on another random code. Think about this for a second. Not only is this buying into what we want, but it also gives them an added extra marketing string to their bow, which us happy little milk cows will probably end up paying for, because at the end of the day we love this game. And when you say it like that, it kind of makes sense. Now, this has been something that has been discussed amongst ourselves and has been put to me to deliver to everybody else. So what do you think about this? Should Wizards put a little bit more product into their product? Would buying a physical pack and getting a virtual one free be something that you would sign on for? Do you think it's a good idea? Let us know in the comments below, and I will be putting a link to part 1 in the description box. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us whilst you're here if you like what we're saying and what we're talking about. Thank you very much for listening.